But Carolyn was far from being out of the woods. She needed daily hormone injections just to keep the pregnancy viable, and the physical symptoms of being pregnant were hitting her hard.
I just didn't know how I was going to handle all the physical challenges of a pregnancy. I had always balanced those with the idea that in the end, there was the reward of a baby. Now no baby, and I'm still going to go through all this.
Adding to her stress were endless doctor's appointments to monitor her progress. There were blood tests once a week, and because of her history of miscarriages, Carolyn was having ultrasounds once a week as well. And during that time, Carolyn and Sean had no one but each other to lean on. Worried about a miscarriage, they kept the pregnancy hidden from their family and friends. They just went about their lives pretending everything was normal.
It was so hard, and so not telling, we had no outlet. It was a very lonely, lonely time.
But by 3 months, thanks to the watchful eye of her doctor, at least some of those fears about their secret pregnancy began to subside.
Our OB kind of said, okay guys, I think this is a go. You're going to need a live birth out of this.
So they decided they were ready to meet the other couple. In the early months of Carolyn Savage's pregnancy, she and her husband Sean decided they would not reveal who they were or have any contact with the couple whose embryos Carolyn received. But that didn't stop her from worrying about that couple, especially the mother-to-be.
I just thought, these people are going to be scared enough, and then I'm thinking, but maybe they're better off not knowing who we are at this point and knowing my medical history, because that's only going to add fuel to their fear.
Now, 3 months into the pregnancy, they were about to meet.
Those embryos, we thought about them all the time, but when?
Leave them behind.
The Morels are a family with young twins living in suburban Detroit, 2 hours away from the Savages. Paul is an electrical engineer, Shannon a history teacher. They married in 2002 and had tried for several years to have children with no success. Finally, their doctor recommended in vitro fertilization. The results were even better than they had hoped.
And we're like, wow, it worked. And then we went back, I think the next week, and they said we see 2 strong heartbeats.
Their twins were born in November 2006. By the time the girls were 2, Shannon and Paul decided they would try to have another child, using the embryos that had been frozen after their first in vitro procedure.
So I made the appointment, and then I got that phone call.
A call from their doctor, asking them both to come and see him that evening. This was 2 weeks before Shannon and Paul's scheduled appointment.
Tell me about that moment when you walk in the office.
First, it was normal, and then he just had a real stressful look on his face.
And I just felt like there was the mood changed in the room. And said there's been a terrible incident.
That's what he said, there's been a terrible incident?
So when he said your embryos have been thawed.
Thawed, like, whoa, no.
And what's the first thing that went through your mind?
And at that point, it's just like, it's like finding out someone died because those are your 6 potential babies.
Yeah.
At first, they thought some power outage had damaged the storage tanks where the embryos were kept frozen. That was until the second bombshell came.
Then he says, and they've been transferred into another woman. And my mouth had just dropped to the floor at that point. I looked at him, eyes met, I said, and she's pregnant. And right then he went, pregnant. And that's when I just fell back and said, no.
Oh my.
I can't imagine even processing that news.
I was in shock.
Yeah.
And I just was silent for a while, and I'm just thinking, processing what he just told me.
Then the what ifs comes like.
And then I just started asking questions.
What'd you ask?
How did this happen?
And what did he say?
It was human error. I said, but you have protocols in place. You have protocols. Yes, but it was human error.
Her next question, who was carrying their child?
And then he told me that, well, she wasn't my patient.
And most important of all,
is she going to terminate? And he told me, I don't know.
So how long was it before the doctor called you back and told you the good news?
Oh, it was 2 days. It was a long 2 days.
There's this sense of relief and for a moment, happiness. And some of that stress left. But then it was, okay, There's another woman we don't know carrying our child. Now what?
Relieved to learn that the pregnancy would continue, Shannon and Paul were still desperate to know who had made that decision.
Did you have a name?
No idea.
Nothing.
We didn't know anything about them. I desperately wanted to connect with them, let them know about us.
Shannon and Paul's only link to their child those first months was Shannon's inbox. The Savages' attorney was sending weekly medical updates and ultrasound pictures. At first, this eased their minds. Then, seeing all those sonograms only made things worse.
After the first couple, I thought, this is really strange. You don't get ultrasounds
Yeah, there's ultrasound
that
every
often.
week. It's like,
For like,
why every week?
So that makes you even more nervous.
Right.
Now that all-consuming question became even more pressing. Just who had received their embryos? And why was she having so many ultrasounds? 3 months into the pregnancy, the two couples would finally come face to face. Two couples, strangers to each other, found their lives colliding in an unimaginable set of circumstances. Carolyn Savage was pregnant with Shannon and Paul Morell's child. Yet the two couples had never spoken, never met. They didn't even know each other's names. That all changed 3 months into the pregnancy.
First trimester is over. You get word that the other couple is finally ready to meet you face to face. Were you nervous?
Nervous.
Excited? Nervous.
Excited too. It's almost like going on like your ultimate job that you want, because you're nervous but you're excited because you really want that job and you want them to like you.
Why was it important that they like you?
I mean, they're carrying our child. We want them to like us so that they love our child.
The setting was businesslike, an attorney's office in Toledo. But the purpose of the meeting couldn't have been more intimate.
That meeting was extremely tough to walk into. I needed to like them. I needed to be happy for their family. We needed to frame this as a gift. And that is the only way that we could figure out how to get through.
We walked in and they were there. Most awkward moment of my entire life, probably.
Shannon spoke first, and she just kind of talked from the heart.
I said, I just can't tell you how grateful we are to you for what you've done. And I said, I know this hasn't been easy. And just went on, I said, it's easy for people to say, I would never abort a baby, but it's a lot harder to walk the walk.
Then it was Carolyn and Sean's turn. They told the Morells about themselves, their family, Carolyn's prenatal care, and plans for the birth.
It was hard. It was awkward.
The two couples met for about an hour and a half.
They were so respectful of us at that point. They didn't want to barge into our lives.
We were like that piece of fragile glass that's sitting in that spot in your house, and they wanted to be very careful around us. I think they felt they wanted to do everything right.
Sitting there and finally talking to Carolyn and Sean, what was your impression of them?
If you were to choose someone to carry your child, be like, that's her.
Ones.
Until Carolyn started to talk, and then she started telling me all about the struggles that they've had with pregnancies. Then I'm like, oh my gosh. Because I thought the first 3 months, that was when I had to be really worried. And then I realized, this is going to be difficult the whole way through.
But at least now they would be getting updates from Carolyn, not her attorney. Just a few weeks after their meeting, Carolyn began emailing Shannon directly. And while there was some comfort in that, Shannon knew this was a high-risk pregnancy, and bad news could come at any time.
I worry about her health and then about the baby, and so it was constant.
The more you know, the more you worry.
Right,
Oh.
right.
Those same worries never left Carolyn and Sean as well.